Hola, ¿qué tal? Aquí Julio Monroy desde Delta Records en Bogotá, Colombia. Hoy tenemos un gran invitado. Todo nuestro live va a estar en inglés, pero también vamos a tener subtítulos en español. Entonces, vamos con nuestro invitado. Hi, John. How are you?
Hello, Julio. How are you?
Well, I'm fine, and I am very happy because finally we can meet here.
I'm very happy that your English is so good.
Oh, but you speak Spanish too.
Well, sí, pero you speak much better English than I speak Spanish at the moment.
Well, I
Uh,
don't know. we'll, we're going to to check them. And we are with David Sicard. Hello, Sicard. How are you?
Hello everyone, how are you? Welcome to this new episode of Producing with Julio Monroy. And well, John, it's a huge honor to have you here. And well, remember that if you've got any questions, please leave them on the platform on which you are watching, and I will say the questions to both Julio and John. I leave you with the conversation.
Thank you so much. First of all, I'd love to say thank you to both of you guys because you guys are really pulling off something pretty fantastic. And I've seen so many of your past interviews that are inspirational. You know, you have so much dynamics and diversity in what you're choosing to show, and I truly appreciate it. And when I go back and I put myself back 35 years ago when I was starting, I would have loved this more than anything, just to see kind of what other people are thinking at the same time. So thank you guys so much.
Oh, thank
And
you.
and
Thank
thank
you,
you
John.
also to my friend Carlos Solis who introduced us. That was very kind of him.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Carlos. Gracias, Carlos. Thank you. Thank you for your kind words, John. Well, we have here one. This is the mandatory question. And can you tell us how did you begin in this audio world?
Okay, that is that's a as I've been doing this for 38 years. I've been a re-recording mixer actually with credits for 38 years. I know I look very young, but I'm actually, old enough to have had those 38 years of experience. Um, and how I'll try to quickly go through this because this for some people can take a long time. But I started in the business on January 18th, 1986 as a receptionist. And so I was answering the phones at a sound facility. My brother, Scott Taylor, was already in the business as a assistant picture editor. And I was having problems signing a job, and he got me an interview at a place. They were slightly reluctant because, they thought I was a little too wild to maybe be a receptionist, and they were right. But anyway, I took the job, and I quickly moved up because I just had a lot of drive. I once I figured out what they did in those dark rooms on those dark stages, making all of those sounds and music pumping and effects and elephant roars and so forth. As I'm sitting at this desk at a place called TAV Sound, once I heard all this stuff, I became very interested, and I had to teach myself. So I started teaching myself what people were doing and how they were getting from this machine to that machine to the console to the speakers, and I started figuring out the math of audio in any sort of machine room. And I quickly went up to the ropes, and after a year of being there, I ended up being a mix tech, which means basically a second in the music world. And as I was mix teching, I was, on the side room, we always had a window into the mix stage. And I saw the client get very upset with the mixer and actually started throwing things at that person. And the mixer got up and left. And I stood there. I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? It was super dramatic. And there I was 19 years old. And the person, I remember everybody's names, but I'm not going to say any. And that person came into the room and he said, and I quote, "Do any of you schmucks know how to mix?" And my hand went up like that. And I remember looking at my hand like I couldn't believe it did that. Now we're in trouble. And he said, okay. So I went in the chair and I figured out how to do what had to be done. It was basically a commercial and it had different spots. It was like 4 different versions of a commercial: a 30-second, a 25-second, a 15, and a 10. And each one of those had they were from some were from Canada, some were for America, and they all had different tags: coming to a theater near you, and so forth. So there was lots of different versions, but I figured out a way just to do the bodies of the mix and then punch in the tag. And anyway, finished that up very quickly, and that became my first client. In other words, every week he came to work with me, and that was the beginning. And so next thing you know, you just sort of realize that making clients, doing good work, having the drive to learn was what this whole business is still about. It still has not changed. You have to have that same drive because technology changes. We get new plugins like every day. There's a batch of new plugins. Anytime that Pro Tools gives us a new version, you have to learn the quirks of that. Anytime the S6 gets updated, which thankfully isn't as often as the Pro Tools versions, you have to get used to what's changed, and you just have to be on top of it. But in the short, that's how I got in the business, if that answers the question.
Well, that's great. But for example, before that, maybe you like to play an instrument, or do you like movies or something when you were a child?
You want to go way back.
Yeah, of course. When you were born.
First of all, I'm an Angelino. I've been born and raised right here in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And it's a great city. I just absolutely love being here. I love when I go somewhere else and I get to come home. I love Los Angeles. It's everything you want. It's such a big city. And I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. My whole life been in the San Fernando Valley, except for now I'm one valley over, just one tiny little mountain range away from where I grew up. With Moses Armstrong, who was Louis Armstrong's nephew, and he had a big band. So I played with him a few times, because at the same time I was also a professional hip hop dancer. So that was like my life. Dancing was what I did. I practiced at least 8 hours a day. I had all sorts of shows and did all sorts of different things to keep that going. Loved it. I love dancing, and that's probably what got me into this world, I guess. And because when I'm mixing, I do mix as if I'm dancing. When I mix the music, if you listen to my mixes, pay very close attention, and you'll hear a lot of movement in the instruments, and nothing kind of just really sits there. Everything's moving, and if you pay attention, you'll hear that.
Wow. Well, I don't know how to dance. I have 2 classes. Do you know, David, do you know how to dance? It seems he's dancing right now.
It depends. It depends on the hour and the amount of beers, probably. But
oh yeah,
I mean, I can.
For me, it's margaritas. It's always been the tequila or mezcal. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's amazing. So, and you dance right now in
still no. Yeah. Although my wife is actually asking that we go to more of a ballroom style dancing now, especially because my younger son Zane is getting married in Italy in Lake Como in June. So they've been taking my wife and my daughter-in-law. My son and my daughter-in-law have been taking dance classes, and my wife is like, that's a pretty good idea. And I was like, I'd love to. Let's do it. So when I go to parties, I still do, but it's not every time.
Yeah. Hey, and Jon, when we're talking more about your journey as an audio engineer in movies, can you tell us more about in which movies have you worked?
Yeah, I do hate to pinpoint specific movies, only because I have a lot of directors that I work with, and I don't want to favor any of them, because I love all of them and I love their movies. But I'll talk about a couple friends of mine that are incredible directors. Anne Fletcher who I did her first film, Step Up, which was quite a few years ago, and it's a dance movie. And you know, I would look at her and I say, you know, you look awfully familiar. And it happens that we have a lot of friends in common, and we were in the same circle in the dance world, which was so fun. And then one of her best friends is another director that I work with named Adam Shankman, who's done, you know, so many just great films, and that I work with, you know, that I've been lucky to work with also. And then also I have some more of a dramatic. Luckily, I'm well-rounded. I work on all sorts of different films of different genres, but I do work with Alejandro González Iñárritu pretty much all the time. We've been together for about 25 years now, so I've done all of his films. Even the first one, which was Amores Perros, which I think was released in the year 2000. It was probably mixed in 1999, released in the year 2000, and I did not mix that one. I'm not exactly sure why I didn't mix that one, but we did just do a remix on it for the Criterion Collection about 4 years ago. So now I can say I actually have done all of his films. But I also worked with him on commercials. So we did Citizen Watch commercials and Volkswagen commercials for Mexico. When I worked at Sony, we did all of those together. So we've known each other for quite a long time. And his best friend and partner, Martin Hernandez, who still lives in Mexico and I still talk to all the time. And I work with Justin Lin and basically the whole franchise of Fast and Furious.
Wow.
So I did 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and Hobbs and Shaw. So those are a lot of fun. Musically, those are unbelievably fun because they're Universal. Universal Pictures releases all of those, and the music department, Mike Noblock and Rachel Levy, are so good at making sure that I get all of the stems for the music. So I get I'll have 60 stereo pairs of all the different, you know, little instruments that are in every cue. That way I can treat them in a theater. You know, and remember, theaters are 120 feet long, you know, and 90 feet wide, and they're huge. It's a totally different thing than mixing in my home stage, which I'm in right now, Tailor-Made Sound.
You're in your home. Tailor-Made Sound is your enterprise.
Yes, Tailor-Made Sound. Let me just do this. Let's see. There. See.
Wow, Tailor-Made Sound. Beautiful. That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah. So I do a lot of work here. So but I work with some really fantastic directors, and I've worked with some here too. Bill Condon, Adam Wingard, who's just great. Just so many, too many to mention, to be honest with you, but a lot of incredible people. Guillermo del Toro, who I did Pinocchio with, and we did Hellboy years ago. I did the first Tempt Ups. I didn't final it, but I, you know, worked with him in the beginning of that.
Man, that's amazing. A lot of movies that we have seen, and when you were a child, where you went beginning to work, at the beginning you said you were working. Did you ever imagine that you were going to?
You know, I'll tell you.
This?
So when I got into mixing, going back to my entrance to mixing, I did do like commercials, right? I did commercials, and then from commercials, I started working on Playboy video centerfolds. So Playboy. So as a young man, I would, you know, of course, it was the group. I hope this doesn't offend anybody, but they were as classy as they possibly could be, and I did get to meet a lot of the women that were in the magazine, and they were so nice and so sweet, and always had their head in the right place, you know. And I worked with them maybe for a couple years, something like that, and then I ended up doing a National Geographic special. And got to work with all of the great talent in National Geographic. Oh my God, so many great people. And then I got to work with the Cousteau Society. So that was with Jean-Michel Cousteau, who took over after his brother Philippe had passed away, and Jean-Michel took over. And we built a really fantastic relationship. So I was doing really wonderful documentaries also. And then I started doing episodic TV shows at the place I was at, which I was there for in total probably 7 years. And just it was a non-union facility. Hopefully people know the difference between union and non-union. Here in Los Angeles, we're very unionized, but there's also still a lot of non-union facilities that you can work at too. But I got my chops in non-union facility, which meant that I could be an engineer, I could be a mix tech, I could be a mixer, I could do anything. When you're union, you have your classification. I'm a re-recording mixer. Basically, that's it. I can't be a mix tech. I can't be an editor.
Okay.
Wow.
Wow.
I can't be an engineer. I can't move to other departments. So that's a little bit interesting. But as I grew on, I realized that, well, I am a mixer and I only mix. And of course, the union is the way to go because you're working on the bigger films. All the bigger films are union films. But my transition from that place that I worked at, which was called TV Sound, then Third Street Sound, and I went from there to Tadio, which was a fantastic place. It's no longer around, but I went from Tadio to Sony Pictures. And when I was at Sony Pictures, then I got into features and started working on just great features. And one of them, I think the first one was 1998, Disturbing Behavior was the name of the film with James Marsden and Katie Holmes. The younger people are going to have no idea what I'm talking about, but it was kind of a cult picture. And it kind of went on from there. And right now, I'm actually employed at Universal Pictures for a little bit longer. But anyway, yes, I'm at Universal at the moment.
Wow, it's a beautiful journey. And Jon, I was thinking, like, it seems that being a good person, nice person, yeah, it's very good for all because. For example, I have seen maybe good engineers, but that they are not very kind, you know. So, based on your history, it has helped you a lot, really.
You know,
What do you think?
that's a really interesting. Of course. I mean, listen, man. What we do, what you do, what I do, what we all do, is collaboration. No one person has all the greatest ideas. That does not exist. Even, directors, phenomenal directors that really have just a great sense. They need help. They can't do it on their own. They need somebody to help them get their film the way that they want it. And so you have to be able to listen. And on that note, every once in a while, you have to defend the film. And you have to say you cannot do what you want to do would be detrimental to the experience of the film as a viewer in the audience. And so there's sometimes as a re-recording mixer that you do have to try to talk your director into not making a mistake also, which I think is, kind of part of our job. But of course, being nice and being kind and being thoughtful is always the best way to go, always. And I have seen people that maybe make a mistake that generally are nice people, and then for whatever reason, or lose it. You just kind of, get them off the stage until they come back and are nice people. But anybody who's just not generally a nice person, sooner or later they get asked to leave the industry and go do something else for a living. Nobody wants that. Nobody, as far as I know.
Yeah, that's true. And David, do we have greetings from someone, or who is
Yes,
connected?
we do have a lot of comments. We have a hi from Carlos Solis. Carlos Solis is here with us
Whoa.
watching the stream. And we also
Wow.
have Jose Valenzuela, Jaime Sainz. Saludos a todos amigos. That means hi to all friends. Carlos Solis also says hugs. We have hello from us to the world. We have Bobby Banks. We have
Bobby.
Carlos actually told us tequila and mezcal, says Carlos.
Nice. Very nice.
We have two questions from you, for you, from Sam Atala. They're saying, hi everyone, I have two questions for John. What's your favorite movie in terms of sound and why? Let's begin with that one.
Wow.
That we're always going to be biased to films that we've worked on, but I have to say that I love the film Forrest Gump. It always sticks with me. The Tom Hanks film. I thought the soundtrack of that movie and just the overall sound of that film was just so good. I love that film in every way. It was just, unbelievably accurate. As far as the films I've done, I will always be partial to Babel by Alejandro. I just think it's a lesson of life. It really teaches you the disparity. I mean, the difference between black and white is taught in the sound of that film, and I'll never forget that. I'll never forget doing the first playback on Babel, and which took a month of at least to get through the first pass, with me and my partner at the time, Chris Minkler, and that first playback was an eye opener for me, like a real what sound can do on films, and actually what less sound, what the lack of sound, what incredibly simple sound can do on a film. So but there's so many great sounding films that I've loved over the years. It's really hard to point out one. In fact, this year I watched The Count of Monte Cristo, which I just loved, and I thought they did such a nice job. It was so elegant and just beautiful all the way through. That really stuck out to me. And of course, a lot of the nominees were I loved. I love what they did on Dune, of course. And I love what they did on the Bob Dylan film, which I can never remember the name, even though it's part of his biggest song. There's just so many different ones, and for different reasons. So it's super hard to answer. But Forrest Gump always just puts a warmth in my heart.
It's a great movie. Great movie.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And how do you feel when you go to the theater and watch a movie? You know that you have worked in that movie. And do you watch the movie like like a person who is watching the movie, or like I should?
No, I would say probably about 15 years ago. It used to be so difficult for me to watch. And maybe 15 years ago, I was able to be more open-minded and sort of bypass, all of the faults that are going to be in every different theater, because it was too difficult. It was way too difficult to watch films and constantly have these things on your mind. Like, gosh, why are the footsteps louder in here than they were, when we mix it, or when you're listening to somebody else's film. No, I'm able to throw all of that aside now. I'm not, and my wife is agreeing with me right now. So I can go to films and actually enjoy a film.
Yeah.
But if there's something that just sticks out, man, I can't get over it. Like, if like, for instance, even though I've done mixed a lot of louder films, I don't necessarily like loudness. I don't like things loud just because. I mean, if it's a big car crash, of course, or if it's a bullet, yes, I want to feel that. It needs to be visceral. I got to have that emotion, because that's what it's all about. What's that emotion that it's trying to portray? But when it's falsely representing an emotion, it just makes me like want to leave. Basically, it's like, this is bullshit. I'm out.
And how do you know when a mix is finished? When you're working and you say, okay, that's enough, it's finished. Or do you have a deadline, or how does it work?
Well, everybody will answer the same way. There's nobody that's going to answer. Mixes are never finished; they're just abandoned. Because sooner or later you run out of time and money, and that's just that. Yeah. So they are never finished. You can always make it better, always. As you know, in fact, and that's, I'm talking about, we deal with thousands of tracks at a time, thousands. There's, wow. Between music on the film that, well, it's not behind me, the film that you might see behind me in a little bit. There was almost 1,000 tracks of music, just music. Wow. And then I still had the 500 tracks of dialogue, and then Frankie on the right side of me, Frankie Montano, had the probably 1,200 tracks of sound effects and backgrounds and stuff. So there's so much, sifting, so much to go through, so many different things, and you have to make, all the different choices. And you can do that forever. I mean, you could, if you had all the time in the world, you would just never finish a film. I mean, that's just a fact. So basically for me, because I generally do films, and I also generally do films that are going to be released in theaters.
Yeah.
Meaning that they put commercials out for when those films are going to come out. And the studio has to book that way in advance, because it's, Paramount, Warner Brothers, Fox, whoever, they have to fight over the same days, and they have to align. And once those days are figured out, it's not good to change that release date. It does happen.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Rarely, very rarely. It's not the same as like streaming shows, which actually can change their date a little bit. It's a little bit easier for them, but not film shows.
And how long it takes to mix a film for you?
That's a super good question, because it varies immensely. It varies immensely. I will say that Babel, so some of Alejandro's films are, Babel, Revenant, Bardo, which was one of the greatest films ever made. All of his films are fantastic. They're all about 90 days, not including overtime or anything like that. So it's 90 days. So it's, usually we'll work weekends, but so let's just say around, between 3 and 4 months. But a regular film, your normal film might be more between 6 weeks and 8 weeks, which would be, most of the films, and some films even less. Some films will be, can be, 2 weeks, depending on how they're prepared and what they're looking for. And, there's all sorts of things you can throw into that equation. So it's really pretty much all over the place. But it's not like TV shows, because, most TV shows are 2 days or 3 days. Some of the better ones are maybe 8 days, I'm hearing, which is fantastic. The streaming shows, I should say, not TV shows, streaming shows. So we generally get a lot more time, but there's also a lot of picture changes that are happening while we're mixing on it. So there'll be more picture changes, and we have to update and follow that. And sometimes because of that, we need a new piece of score to be recorded and mixed for that. So it's really just an evolution that just kind of keeps going. And I would say for feature directors, the pressure of getting done, even though they have a lot more time, is intense. It's very intense, and also depends on how much the studio is involved. Sometimes the studio isn't that involved, and it works out really well because the director really gets to make the film that he or she wants to make. And sometimes the studio is very involved for the reason of either fixing mistakes that aren't really covered, or they just want to have more credit. Like, yeah, we really helped make this film. So you never know why. There's lots of different reasons, and there's lots of different people that are above me making decisions. That's for sure.
Oh, thank you. That's a great answer. And well, I was talking with John Krivit, the AES past president.
Yeah.
And he said, I love Birdman.
Birdman.
Yeah, man. I saw that you have worked in a lot of movies, and it's amazing to be here. It's amazing. I have to repeat, thank you that you're here with us.
I'm so glad to be here. Man, Birdman, that's just another one of those films that, it's such a great film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just, and the composer on that one, gosh, man, he just was so good. I mean, everything about that film was just great. It was very difficult. It was incredibly difficult to mix. That was before we were on the S6. So basically, all of that panning, was done on a conventional console. It was very hard, but it was on an MPC4, which was, if you need to, you can hook panners together instantly on a even way better than you can on an S6. So in a way, it was easier, but it was still. I mean, oh, what a difficult film! It was so hard. It was so hard and so fun. I'm so proud of it in every way. Every way, it was a blast.
That's great.
Yeah.
I remember there was a scene where a drummer was playing, and
Outside?
yeah, I thought that it was music, and then whoop, he appears in the scene. For me, it was magic.
It was not magic. It took a long time, man, because when they bust out of the double doors from the stage where they're rehearsing, and then the drummer at that time was about 60 feet behind us, because we're looking at the actors, and the drummer is about 60 feet behind us. So you're trying to get that perspective accurate, because they're talking also. So you can't just have loud drums. You have to make sure that those drums are in the distance with all that reverb and slap and delays, and then has that, that sort of tone to it. And then he gets closer, but you want to feel him get closer all the time. But these guys are still talking. So I have to be careful. So I don't do it with level, but what I do it with is I was decreasing the delays the whole walk. So going from like 120 millisecond or 200 millisecond delay down to, 150, then 100, and then 50, and then 0. And there he is. So that pan of when he comes on camera, there's just almost no reverb on anything, no reverb, no delay. It's just straight dry. And you just feel the proximity, the presence of that drummer. And it's loud. It's not soft. It's, and it's just like, oh, everybody remembers that part of it. And I got to say, it was really a blast to do that. And Alejandro was such a perfectionist that it was just time and time and time and time. And I would say we probably spent 6 hours just on that one single part of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Yep. Amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
I will remember that part of my life, believe me.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
And you too, I guess.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
PTSD, as they say. No, I don't have any PTSD from that. That whole film is just it was so enjoyable because it was all about perspectives, and you're changing. There are no cuts in the film, as you know, except for the very beginning, but those were just like 3 cuts in the whole film. So as you're traveling, your reverb time and your reverb delay is changing constantly, so I was definitely more into the being in the box at that point, because we were still out of the box, still using a 480 or, I can't remember the other ones because I'm so happy not to use those anymore. I'm so happy working in Pro Tools with all my plugins. You have no idea. I'm so happy. And the S6 in that combination, man, my hands are never tied. I feel my hands are never tied, and I love it.
A lot of creativity.
Yeah.
Well, David, he told me that we have a lot of questions for you. I hope you have time.
Yeah, we were only 5 minutes in, so yeah, keep going.
Amazing. Yeah, we do have a lot of questions, and we actually have John Cribbett here with us as well. This is excellent, wonderful interview. So thank you, John, for being here. We also have Natalie from Antelope. Hello, friends. John, I admire your talent. Thanks for sharing your stories.
So much. Thank you.
I do have a personal question before the community questions, and my question is, there's something really amazing when creating audio for film, especially in storytellings that have elements that are non-human. For example, you are representing an alien world or a completely created world. What do you think are the aspects that make in sound design, and especially in characters? For example, you have this alien character. What aspects do you think make the sound believable for the audience and relatable related to what they are seeing?
Ooh, boy, that's a tough question because it's so deep and it's so, there's the sound designers and the editors and the Bobby Banks of the world that set those things up, kind of ahead of time. And so what happens is editorial is going to give me sounds that the director that they've been working on with the director. And when I get those sounds, I get a chance to, for for instance, in Star Trek, Idris Elba's character, which was just, man, he was great. And so I get to try and morph his voice, his real voice, and the alien voice that was maybe created. And you're constantly, and not only that, his shape was sort of changing throughout the film. And Justin Lin, the director, who's amazing, was always on top of that mixture of when he can sound more human or not, you know. But it's you search, for instance, tricks like reverb is generally a trick, right? So people catch on to that. For instance, like a lot of times, you know, if there's ADR and it's on the back of the head, sometimes the audience like feels that, like, oh, that's not part of the story or whatever. So the audience, even they don't know what's happening, they feel the emotion of what's happening. They always know. So you just have to work on it. Sometimes it's like, let's not use any reverb at all. How can we stretch this and make it seem like it's got an effect on it, but nobody actually can tell that it has an effect on it. You're constantly looking for ways to make it just more grounded, I would say, more natural, as you put it. But yeah, it's just there's so many variables. But it really does all start with the sound designers and with the sometimes with the dialogue editors, and you know, things that they've talked about with the director a lot of times before it gets to the stage, and then we just try to make it better than what we started with and not make it worse, which sometimes can happen too. Sorry, Bobby.
Amazing. Thank you
Thanks,
thank you for your answer. We have a question from Natalie. You have worked on so many major projects. Was there a particular moment where you felt I have made it on the film industry?
Oof, boy. Well, I think I could give you a real bad example. I did something that made Michael Bay angry, and he yelled at me, and I really felt good. I was like, I made it. I don't know if that helps, but that was one of those moments. I kind of was like, yes, he knows who I am, in a positive way. You know, I cannot tell you when, but I can tell you that. I'm going to give you an example, and hopefully this doesn't come off as being pretentious or anything like that, because I certainly try not to be that person. But my partner Frankie and myself did a film called Unbroken, and it was just such a beautiful film, talking about tragic moments in history of World War II. And the score by Alexander Desplat was absolutely amazing. It was one of the most beautiful scores that I've had under my hands, and I've had some beautiful scores. And it was treated with kitten gloves. I mean, every single moment was thought of with just straight up love, because I absolutely loved it. And after we mixed the film, we had to play it back for Alexander in London. So we took it to London to play it for him, and we played it in the Dolby Theatre in Soho. And I'm sitting behind Alexander and Angelina Jolie, who's the director, and I'm sitting behind them. And I'm not sure why I decided to sit behind them. I don't know why, but I was so nervous sitting behind them, because you know, Angie was just note after note after note, you know, and I'm watching the film. I'm like, God, this is just outstanding. I mean, Frankie killed the effects in the very beginning of the film. There's this whole fight is like, it's so beautiful. No music in that scene, and then just a lush score for a lot of the rest of the movie. And I'm like, my God, he should love this. I hope he loves this. There's no way he's not going to love this. This is so good. And I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, you know, as I'm watching it, I'm so proud. But at the same time, I'm watching Angie give notes. And the best of us, we're always, everybody. It doesn't matter. You're always going to be a little insecure, always. And the film ends, and I'm like, you know, they turn around, and I was like, yeah, is everything okay, Angie? Yes, I had a lot of notes. She goes, no, I don't have any notes at all. These are just thoughts of, you know, of color or whatever. I'm like, thank God. And I looked at Alexander, and Alexander Desplat, who's one of my heroes, without a doubt, he just went like this. He goes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. He was so happy. And I was thrilled. It just, it was definitely one of those moments where you do feel, even though that was recently, it was 2015, I think. I did feel like, you do feel like, oh man, I do belong. I have felt that for a while, but you're never really sure until you get that type of feedback of how you do. And I'm just so grateful for people that do go out of their way and also let you know how much they appreciate your help, because sometimes it's a very personal thing. It's not always about doing a job. It's about making a great product for somebody that you like. And in almost every single case, 99.9% of the people I work with, I just want them to be happy and feel like they've got the product that they were looking for. I mean, that's our job. So I can present my ideas for sure with all my directors, all of them. They'll always let me do what I want to do first. And then we go from that point as far as, changing parameters or changing where the emotion might be focused, because that's what this job is about. Focus in the emotion 100%. And that's what music is about too, even though music can sometimes be perceived as being more linear, but it really is about the emotion and what touches you, and being sensitive to what touches you is important in all aspects of life, really, but in our industry.
Thank you, Jon.
Amazing. Thank
You're welcome.
you. We do have more questions. We have a question from Daniel Rodriguez Icart. The similarity on the name, that's because he's my cousin. So thank you for being here. And he has a question. What is the most difficult part of working with directors?
In the beginning, it could be remembering their name. That could be very difficult. I know that sounds funny. I'm not trying to make anybody laugh, but there are times when, you meet a director, and usually it's before they come on stage, because you should have a rapport, get to know the director before they come to the stage. But sometimes they'll remind you of somebody else. Let's just say that happens to everybody. Might remind you of somebody else, and you just can't remember their names. That is very difficult at times, but that's not the answer you're looking for. I would say, okay, all right. Here's a great example. This was, I'll never forget this. I won't say the film and I won't say the name of the director, but there was a director who I immediately just didn't get along with because he was not really taking sound seriously. He didn't understand how much sound was going to help his film. He didn't get it. He was a video guy. He was big with camera, big with visual. And there was a song called "Closer" by 9 Inch Nails. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the time, this was a huge song. Now, if you know anything about the mix of this song, the vocals are very low and the low end is very loud. So when you're in a theater and you're playing that song, you can barely hear the vocals, but the low end is rumbling. And so I turned around, I asked the director, I said, how do you want to make the scene? It was an action scene, right? It was an action scene. It was about kind of people getting shot and blah 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 blah. And he said, "Oh no, man, just I want to feel the low end of the song and let the effects just carry it." And I'm like, that's not going to happen, because this song's $300,000 and we're going to hear every note of this song. So why don't you just leave for a little bit? I could not believe he said that, and I'm normally not like this, because normally I wouldn't run into this sort of problem, but I did ask him to just step out, and we're going to make a couple passes the way I think it should play. And what I ended up doing was I took 2 tracks, because I didn't have the splits. It was just a 2-track off the CD, and I had that going left right, hard left right. And then I took another 2 tracks, the same exact thing, and I rolled off all the EQ and made just vocals. So you basically got rid of everything but the vocals. So I can raise the vocals, 6 dB or 10 dB, whatever I needed to, and put it more down the center, spread out just a little bit. And then I put a delay off the stereo part of it, the high end. So I had a little bit of ear candy going in the surrounds, right? Okay. And then all the effects, super low. All there, but super low. And the only big effects, as loud as they can make it, are the kill shots. So anybody that was going to get killed, all of those. So that was just like, bam, bam. And it was super effective. And you heard the song all the way through. And that took about 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever it was. And I asked the director, to come back. And I played it for him. He goes, yeah, that's good. And then we moved on. And I was like, Jesus Christ, man. Yeah. So the answer really is sometimes they make it difficult for us to help them, if that means anything. That story is very rare. Generally, directors come in and they all want to make, Gone with the Wind. They all want to make their films, perfection that's going to last 100 years. They want to see all students in every classroom are going to learn filmmaking from their film. I mean, generally, that's how they are.
And most of them do a lot of audio engineering or anything about audio engineering.
Nope. Every once in a while, you'll run into somebody that maybe has some sort of background, but generally not. They generally come from story point positions, reading, writing, which I think is really probably more important. When you have somebody that knows how to tell a story and understands where the emotion is going to come from, then it doesn't matter. None of that matters. You hire people for a reason. They interview lots of people, for every position. And they, first of all, they want to find somebody that they can get along with. And this is something that's just happened in a movie that we'll be doing next year, next March, April, May. But that director wants to make sure that everybody that he's hiring is a good person who's paying attention, who has doesn't have any problems, like maybe doesn't smell. I mean, they want to make sure that it's a pleasant experience on every level, because that's what filmmaking is. As we talked about earlier, it's collaboration, and it's being comfortable saying that I can disagree with what somebody else is saying and not have a fist fight about it. It's about, how do we find, that happy medium, or somewhere that works best for the film. And the answer is, you just try it both ways. Watch it. Is it getting you? Did I get a little bit of a pump? Is my BPM going up a little bit? Then it worked. So it doesn't matter whose idea it is. Nobody's going to walk away and say, yeah, remember that? That was my idea. That's not how that works.
And Jon, I was wondering how was changing from surround to Dolby Atmos for you?
Okay, so going back to Unbroken, that was my first Dolby Atmos film.
Oh, okay.
That we mixed in the secondary stage at Universal, which is stage 6, and we mixed it in 7.1 first. And I love 7.1 because Atmos basically is 7.1 with a little additional. And I love 7.1. So after doing the 7.1, and then the Hitchcock Theater at the time was just outfitted with Atmos by the time we finished, we then did an up mix, which was kind of common in those days, to mix 7.1, then do an up mix into Atmos, which we did the exact same thing on the Revenant too. Same theater, same thing. And it was at first, so we spent about 3 or 4 days. We got into reel 5. It was a 7-reel film. And we got into reel 5, and we're like, all right, now that we kind of get an idea, let's start over, because now we've turned it into a cartoon. It's no longer a film, about World War II. Now it's kind of a cartoon because it was too gimmicky, too much stuff moving around, too many sounds in weird places. And basically it kind of became a little annoying. So we went back and we said, okay, let's just pick the moments. Let's pick the moments. Of course, in the first scene where it's all the plane fighting, all of that just got a little bit more precise of where you're hearing that plane. And then the rest of it was just like very subtle moments, like wind. Frankie took a track of wind, and he just goes in the encampment. So all the prisoners are standing, all the American prisoners are standing, and then the Japanese, the bird was his name in the film, but he was kind of the bad guy, and he was standing looking at them. And as he's standing in the background, you see the Japanese flag, and then you hear the water. And there's a little bit of a wind, a little bit of a dust that you see fly up. And there was no noise, no sound. Nobody's saying anything, just a little wind, a little ocean, flag flap, halyard, ding, 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 or whatever it's called. And then just, so it starts right in the center and then comes up over your head and goes behind you in Atmos. So it's one speaker at a time. And then we figured out that was the best use of Atmos. The subtlety that Atmos can give you is stunningly beautiful. If it's overused, forget it. I don't want it. That's bubblegum. Not interested. And I've tried it. And, it's just, it never really works. It's the subtlety. And that's going to, one of the things that I did want to talk about was objects in Atmos, in theatrical, not necessarily in this room. And that would be one reason why I don't think you could go directly from this room to a theater, depending on what you do. Now, this room, it just like translates immensely well. But objects, there are 3 rings in here. I've only got 3. I got front, middle, back. This is 916 room, where a theater like the theater at Universal is, I think it's 9 rings, not including the front. So it's basically 11 rings altogether. And when you do is, and you're in a big room like that, and those overhead speakers basically point almost straight down. They have 110 degrees of dispersion, right? But basically from 0 degrees, you have 0 loss. And then by the time you get out, you might have 6 dB of loss on the edge. So as the sound is, if you're sitting in the back of the theater, you cannot hear that sound in those front speakers. It doesn't exist. So it's basically going to be in the front speaker. And as it comes across, you're going to lose it. You'll lose it. And then you'll start to hear it. Then you'll finally hear it. And then it goes behind you and you might miss it again. So in Atmos, every speaker is particular depending on the size of your object. So changing that size, you have to be very careful and make sure that you sit in different seats so you can see if that sound gets lost or not. So when it comes to objects, and if you're going to be a small size so you get maximum effect, you need to test it. If you have to say in your head, is it okay to lose this sound? Is that okay? Is it just a little bit of ear candy and we can lose it? If that's the case, then yes, go ahead and do it that way, because some people are going to really dig what you did. And every time you watch that, it's going to sound a little bit different every single time. So it's worth it. But if it's something you can't lose, then you have to make your object size bigger. And sometimes you have to fill the whole thing. Which is basically what the array in 7.1 is, between left side, right side, left surround, right surround. So it's, there's a lot to be learned from that. Hopefully everybody understands what I meant by that.
Yeah. And for example, when you have to mix with music, do they send you the mixes in Atmos or in stereo?
Usually, if they send me an Atmos, I just redo it anyway, because it's always going to be different, again, like in a big theater. And not only that, I just, the thought of putting something up there filling all of the overheads is not appealing to me. I don't like, when you're in a big room like that, basically a cavern, anything that comes out is then reverbed into that room. And some of these rooms have the Chinese maybe 3.5 seconds of reverb time. Yeah. So you have to be very precise. You can't just fill speakers with sound. And I know that because of experience. I know that. So a lot of times I can't use that the way it is. But they may have a record on the tree, because they'll have a big microphone tree on scoring stages. And they may give me a reverb. It may be useful for other things sometimes, but I mean, I really appreciate it. I love how much they give me. But I'll have, hundreds of tracks, which is great. All the separation I could possibly need, so I can make fun. So I'll keep my groove together, because in a big room, if you separate your groove, and your rhythm's gone, and you got delays in the room. So you have to make sure that the delays in the theaters stay the same. So your groove has to stay tight, and that's usually going to be up front, right? But then you've got your counter rhythms. Now your counter rhythms can be a little loose. So you might be able to hit one of your counter rhythms as long as you're back on the beat up front, right? So keep that beat together. But everything else, it's like I may have a rhythm guitar that's a little bit tighter to the groove that I'll keep maybe just a little bit back so I don't get that much delay. And then if there's something a little bit higher that's not tight with the beat, then I can put that back just to have more spread. So it's a similar thing, similar to how you would mix Atmos music for for home theaters and such. Difference is I'm always thinking about what the big room is going to do. And of course, we generally mix films on bigger stages. But I'm always thinking about that because I don't want to be embarrassed by that delay, in the future.
And how many beds do you use when you're mixing?
How many beds I use? We generally we make a lot of beds because we're very stout on our recorders. Our recorder's an HDX6 system, so that's capable of recording how many tracks? I think we're capable of 512 tracks to record. And so I make a dialogue bed, I make a dialogue reverb bed, I keep them split, and I make a group bed, I make a score bed, a source reverb bed. We make a effects bed, background bed, Foley bed, design bed, car bed. We basically make about 12 different beds. The reason for this is, so when we're done mixing for theatrical, then we do a rebalance on a smaller home sort of setup that we lower the overall SPL, from 85 in theatrical to 78 to 80 in a near field environment, and take out the low end. So we basically end up compressing everything a little bit more. But because we have all of those beds, we don't have to go back to the original sessions and like remix everything. Now we just sort of, put different values to each bed to make it work the way it's supposed to. And also now that we have all of the sort of rules, what am I trying to say? The rules of, the different streaming services, we have to stay at minus 27 as a reference guide for a dialogue level. You know what I mean? So we get to sort of, remix for those sort of different calibrations and, rules and whatever. That's
And
not understand,
John,
but
I was hearing you and I was wondering, do you teach? Do you teach what you do?
no, but I do classes. Now
Yeah.
I'm not permanently, but I'll be asked to speak to classes. And going back a little bit to what you said, as far as directors coming in and what experience they have, a lot of the classes, like for instance, at Chapman University, where my youngest son went, I got to speak Pavlin for Dan Pavlin, I think was his name. And it was interesting because it was a sound class, and I see a lot of young people out there, and nobody was really too interested in it, it seemed. And I'm like, okay, so let's see what they're here for. So I would ask them, say, what are you here for? And that she would say, yeah, I want to be a producer. I'm like, I noticed you're not really paying attention. I'm just curious why. It's totally cool. You do what you got to do. I said, but if I were your parents and I was paying money or whoever, I think I'd want you to pay attention to everything you can. And she said, well, it's sound. I want to be a producer. I'm like, you don't think that producers have anything to do with sound? I said, you are all wrong. Every single one of you in here who think like that are wrong. If we are filmmakers and you are looking at every aspect of film, you're looking at picture all the time. You're looking at even color grading, as far as what colors go, because that changes the emotion of what the sound's going to do. It all makes a difference. Pay attention. Who else doesn't want to pay attention in this class? I literally did that in one of those classes. Do not come in here and ignore me. I'm not going to have it. I drove a long way. Don't do it. And I tell you what, they all became much better listeners at that moment.
And which percentage do you think that audio has in a movie? It's a good question.
Well, I mean, no, you always hear people. There's, we just this past weekend we had different sound award shows. One's for the MPC for the editors, one's CAS for the mixers, and I think it was. They always say it's like sound is always 51%. Because we all grew up listening to music, every single one of us. And guess what? That's 100% sound. That's 100% sound. Maybe the videos, but nobody generally. We all listen to records. We're audiophiles. We listen to polyester. That's what we were into. And I think a lot of people still feel that way. They still really say that sound on its own can tell a story, as we know it can, without a doubt. But It's all tied together. It's all tied together. There's no percentage because at some points it may be 0%, other points it may be 100% in a film. It's going to change all the way through. So there is no number that's representative of it, nor should there be. They should all be created equal. If some people think that sound's not being treated as equally as picture, I don't know what to say about that, but hopefully they're all treated the same. Hopefully.
It's a tricky question. It's a tricky question.
It is a tricky question also because it's also going to depend on the director that you're working with. Some directors are way into sound, like really do believe that sound is making their film 100%.
Yeah.
Directors, some directors will absolutely think that. But we will always know that sound and picture have got to be tied together and have to work together. So I could never say that. I'm sorry. That's just me.
Hey, and John, have you heard about an event that is called the Pan American Audio Educators Conference? It's going to be in Mexico.
I have heard of that. Yes, yeah. I have heard of that. Are you going?
Yeah, I'm going. David's going. You should go.
I want to go. Is it going to be in Guadalajara or is it in Mexico City?
In Mexico City. See, David, do you have the information?
Yeah.
I do have the information. So the Pan American Audio Educators Conference is going to take place on Mexico City from March 29 to the 31st. It's going to be an amazing event where you are going to be able to meet with educators and thought leaders. It's going to be run with the Soundcheck Expo simultaneously, so you're not going to miss the Soundcheck Expo. We're going to be talking about a lot of topics like AI and methods of education. A huge shout out to all the sponsors of the event as well. And we hope to see you all there. You can see here some of the topics that we are going to be covering on this great event. So the Pan American Audio Educators Conference.
Oh, that's great. I think my friend Yamil is tied to that somehow. And I think he said his daughter is watching this right now, which I love her so much. So fantastic. Hopefully I can go. I'd love to. Oh yes. Yeah. And my wife has never been to Mexico City, so she needs to.
It's a good plan.
Yeah.
Go to the Pan American, then to Soundcheck, the other event in Mexico, and then travel, eat tacos and everything. It's amazing. It's a good plan.
and chapulines, right? Don't forget those. Those are fantastic. Fantastic.
Mexican food is amazing.
Yeah.
David, do we have more questions for John?
I would like to, before you get into that, I would like to say one thing, because this is something that constantly comes up. And as much as even yesterday. But any business, any career, job, any that you're going to want to do for the rest of your life is going to be hard to get into. It's going to be difficult for most people. Okay, for most people, it's going to be hard. All of these youngsters that go to school and spend so much time and so much effort and so much money going to these schools and come out, and then they don't know what to do. Now, the schools help. They truly do. They want to place them. They have my friend Rick Henson over at SCAD. He's always looking for, man, here's a great person. You got to check this young person out. They really know their thing, and I'll try to meet whoever I can. Of course, it's so difficult because there's only so many people that could be hired. So you have to look at all avenues. The first thing I have to say is take any job. I started as a receptionist. It was so important and valuable for me to have that job. It may not seem like anything to some of you that have already spent a little time on a console and so forth, but you still haven't finished learning how to deal with people. And having that job as a receptionist really helped me to learn how to deal with people on a professional level. Generally, these people are not going to be your friends. They're all going to be friendly, but maybe not your friends, so forth. So please don't think that anything is beneath you. That's bad. Don't do that. You take whatever you can get. Another thing is that they always say, there's people always say, now my wife and I disagreed on this a little bit ago, but they will say, let me sit behind you. Let me sit behind you so I can learn. You've heard that. Many people come to you and say, let me sit behind you. And I understand that, right? I kind of like understand that. But the truth is, if you want to learn, only you can teach yourself. Only you. No, there's nobody else that can teach you. I cannot teach you how to listen. I cannot teach you what is emotionally valuable. I cannot teach you that. That is, everybody's a little bit different. And because we're a little bit different, some will be wanted more by this person or that person or whatever. Everybody will have a different value in different places. And that you become unique. But learning how to read emotion of the sounds and the picture together, in film, is invaluable. So what you need to do is you need to sit down in front of your computer or whatever you've got and play a film. And when something touches you, when you like, damn, either you get a little choked up or your blood starts going a little fast, your heart pounds, or you feel so bad, stop it and go back. What was it that made you feel that way? Tear that apart. What was it? A one sound? Was it whole sound? Now, if you're talking about music, that's what music does. But sometimes music can make that feeling adverse. And you'll say, let's get rid of music. That one single cricket might just be the thing, man. That's that feeling of solitude. I'm by myself. Nobody's got my back. I'm alone. And you yourself in the audience are feeling the same thing because of that one single cricket feeling that lonely. They had this beautiful score, but they realized the score wasn't really doing it because it was maybe too emotional, or maybe it was feeling uplifting rather than isolated. So you have to search what triggers your emotions. That's how you learn. Then start peeling that onion. It was that sound. Well, was that sound dried? Was it wet? Did it have reverb? Was it EQ'd a certain way? Did it sweep? Did it go and get down to that point of loneliness? This was like, I'm here, I'm uplifted, I'm jamming, I'm cool, and now, oh man, I'm alone. There's nobody with me. So that one sound and how it was treated. Peel that onion, figure out what it is. Once you start understanding what's driving your emotions, then you have a perspective, and that perspective is now worth something.
I think that's very important, and I think that have passion for our jobs, and that's very important because, as you said, for example, I teach in a university. I teach mix. I know that there are students, they are learning and they are going to finish all the career, and well, what I'm going to do, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that advice it's amazing because, yeah, sometimes you think that you end the career and yeah, next day you're going to be working in, I don't know, Paramount or something, yeah.
Right.
That's not true. So yeah,
yeah. I mean, as artists, artists are always insecure, and which is a shame, because I do think that people with artistic values do get taken advantage of a lot of the time, because we can't ever walk away from something. When they say, oh, there's no more money, you're like, okay, fine, no money. Let me finish. I got 2 more weeks. It's going to take me to finish this and make it perfect. Fine, I won't get paid. And that's just so sad. It's so wrong, because I do think a lot of I won't say anybody's title, but a lot of people do take advantage of artists because they know artists are never going to walk away, because we're so passionate about what we do, and we're so passionate about a lot of times to protect the director. We want to make sure that the director's best foot is put forward on every film they do, because we want them to come back. I want to work with that director in 2 years when they leave this and they go through all the stuff that they have to go through to promote the film, and pray to God the film does well and everything's good, and then they get to party for 6 months, and then after that they get on another film and they start the whole thing over again. So that's what we do, and that's why we do it.
Thank you, and for your words are amazing. I know for the new audio generations, that's amazing. But
Good.
David is saying me that we have more questions. I hope you
Yeah,
have
we do. I wanted
like
to
5 hours.
I wanted to add like this little comment, taking into account what you were talking about, and the truth is that we work in entertainment, so we actually live our lives, directed to other people, and as
Yeah.
artists, we create every single day for other people, so for them to have like an emotional experience, help them if you're a songwriter, help somebody probably get over the breakup, a relationship breakup, or something like that. And I think that's really important, especially for the young people, to understand that all of those values has to be translated on the working environment. Because the truth is that if you do not adapt this philosophy into your life, it's going to be really, really, really hard for you to know how to teamwork. And we are artists, and we have a huge human intention, and the human intention is over everything, and it's over personal recognition, and it's over you probably are going to do a lot of things that you are not going to be credited, but it doesn't matter because you're going to learn.
That's
And
right.
you help
Yep.
somebody else create, and that's the idea.
Thank you, Zach.
It's so true. I think it was at my dentist one time, and or maybe a doctor, and she's a younger person, maybe in her 30s, and she asked me what I did, and I told her. I said, "Yeah, it's not brain surgery or anything." And she goes, "You know what?" She goes, "What you do is so important. It's so important. Filmmaking helps people around the world. Don't ever sell yourself short, ever. It's people watch films, and I have to go back to 1975 watching Rocky, and that dude finally got up those stairs, and my God, did I want to go up some stairs too. I mean, it really, like, I'll never forget how I felt. And anybody my age will have that exact same story. Millions and millions of people will say that. And yeah, maybe not every film is Rocky, but there's a lot of Rocky in almost every film.
That's true. That's true.
Thank you. Yeah.
We have a comment from Alejandro Jaramillo. Thank you for your inspiration and willingness to share your experience. So thank you, Alejandro. Thank you a lot for being here.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for saying that, Alejandro. I appreciate that.
We have a question from Felipe Prieto. Do you have a process when starting to mix in Dolby Atmos?
I would say the only process I do have is sort of like predetermining tracks that are going to be designated towards objects. But no, I will say that, like, if on a film like the Fast and Furious franchise, I know there will be quite a bit of pieces of music that will be in Atmos. So I'll be ready for that. But the truth is, I get to, again, the people at Universal really give me the time and the means to be able to do this. Like, it's like straight out of Compton, man. I mean, holy smokes. They gave me everything. So I got, really got to get into it. But no, you're kind of pulling the pieces out and saying, okay, this part has to stay in the bed. Why? Because it needs to be an array. It can't get lost. None of these sounds can get lost. In fact, straight out of Compton, almost all of it can't get lost. So it was hardly anything in objects at the time. But some of the Fast and Furious is definitely, because you're in a car race, you got all that stuff you're dealing with too, right? And so the music has to flow around. They have to work with one another. In fact, one of my favorite film pieces, I think, was in Fast and Furious 6, and it was sort of a love race when the character Letty sort of forgot she had amnesia, and she didn't know who Dom was, even though they're lovers, but she didn't know. So they ended up in this race, and this race became sort of a love ballad. It was so beautiful, it was so perfect, and the way the effects and the music work are just it was great. And you had to pull some of those pieces out and put them in Atmos and put them a little bit higher, because they were so subtle that if they were with the rest of the music or with the cars, you'd never hear them. So they had to cover the overheads, like specific bells that maybe would have touched moments, close-ups of faces when they're in their separate cars, but they got a close-up as they're looking at one another, and there's a little bit of a ding or a harp or something like that, and you wanted to make a moment of it, but you couldn't get it through the rest of it, so you put it in the objects. And when you say Atmos, I almost always immediately think overheads. even though that's not totally true. It's actually every single speaker in the arrays could be an object too, but generally I think overheads.
Well, I have been mixing in Atmos for music. I have been mixing for like 1 year. Yeah, but in all my career, that is like 20 years, I have been mixing in stereo. And when I began to mix in Atmos, I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And now it's for me it's amazing because there's a lot of creativity and you can do like whatever you want. It's amazing, and I think mixing in Atmos for movies it should be amazing because now you can put in the top I don't know rain, for example. Yeah, and maybe early you cannot put rain in at the top of
right. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like a given. The easy thing is PAs, tennoise, right? Tennoise. In airports with the person, blah 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 blah. It's great. I put it up there. It sounds like it's up there. It's awesome. A plane goes by over your head. It's like, wow, that's so cool. It feels accurate. In some films, though, even that doesn't work. It's too much. It's like some songs. Some songs that have been upmixed into Dolby Atmos, you listen to them and you're like, okay. And then you listen to the 2-track, you're like, wow, that's it. That's the song. So sometimes it just doesn't work. It takes away. Sometimes it's phenomenal. Sometimes it's absolutely great, but it's a choice. It's a choice. It's not you don't have to, just because you have all the speakers doesn't mean you have to use them. You can use one thing and make a world of difference with one thing that otherwise you wouldn't have had that chance, but you just made it 9,000% better because you took that one thing and you put it over there. Or, you've got double voices, because I did this one time with Nicki Minaj and one of the brothers, Joe, what are those brothers called? Noah, I can't remember, but where she was a doubler for him. And I put her on the top speakers. I get IMAX is separate, and it was just perfect. It was almost like a call and answer, where you subtly felt that difference in a huge theater, even more subtle at home. But oh my God, was it nice? I mean, it just was so nice. Nothing else, no other speakers, nothing else was really in Atmos. Just that one thing, and it made just a spectacular amount of difference. I got lots of compliments from people saying that was just a really tasty mix. And I love that. That makes me happy.
Yeah, it makes me happy too. Thank
Yeah.
you, Olivia.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, David, where this episode is running out of time, but we have big news, because this is going to be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, I'm going to take advantage of this little space, and remember to everyone, if you've got questions, please leave them on the comment section on the platform on which you are watching. We actually have a couple more questions, so I'm gonna go to them in a minute. So, yep. This episode is going to be available on all streaming platforms. You just enter to your Spotify account, Apple Podcast account, and look for Produciendo con Julio Monroy. It's really simple. You just look for the show and you'll find this episode and all the past episodes as well. We have an Oscars question.
Wow.
From Sam. He is asking, which movie do you think will win the Oscar for Best Sound this year?
Oh, are you kidding? You can't answer that question. Which Sam is that? Is that Samara? Which Sam is that? What's her
Atala.
name? His name. Okay, yeah. She knows I can't answer that. She lives in Mexico City. She thinks she's far enough away to be able to answer that. That is, you cannot answer that. But I will say that it's very confusing because Dune won the BAFTA awards. That's the British Academy Award. Dune won that. And then as far as the local awards here, that was the Complete Unknown, right? Won the CAS, which is basically by mixers. So we vote for it, and we voted for Complete Unknown to win. They're also great. They're just all strong films, every single one of them, and I mean that too. Wicked. I will say it's not everybody's. I mean, it's such a huge film. You can't deny that. When you listen to the entrance of that film and you see how many people there are, and you knew that the director wanted to hear everything. It wasn't just going to be a scene about music with Ariana Grande's, amazing voice. It was not going to be just about that. It was going to be about the world of Oz, and very hard to pull off. A lot of work went into that. And of course, a lot of work went into A Complete Unknown, because that was all live recordings that we know of. How much actually got redone or not, I don't know, but it was all live recordings. And you can tell when you're close up on their faces with Joan Baez, that I forgot that actress's name, and everything's perfectly in sync. And you feel the exact emotion that you see on their face. It's so believable. And that's kind of new for us, because usually everything is pre-records and it's, done in a booth and whatever, a similar way to actual, making records. In this case, it was live right there, and it was pretty obvious, and it's exciting. It gets you. You're emotional. It's just like, wow. I mean, you're just so impressed, especially if you're a fan of Joan Baez or Bob Dylan's. So that was fantastic. In Dune, you're just dealing with an amount of sound, of SPL, of sound pressure, that's just like, that's just cavitating, if that's a word, into your chest. It's like, and you still hear every word of dialogue, and it's like, how man, there's a lot. How they do this? It's very impressive, and those are all friends of mine too, and I have so much respect for every single one of them, and just all the films, every single film. So I will not tell you what I voted for. That will not happen, especially since there's people on here that will give me up, Bobby, for sure. So anyway, sorry, Sammy.
A tricky question. Yeah, very tricky. Well, Chick, tell us more about you. We have more questions for Jon.
While waiting for the questions, wanted to tell you that we just opened a Discord server. So if you want to connect with us, just in a moment, a QR code is going to appear on the screen. You can talk with us, share your ideas, share your music as well. And you can leave questions for future episodes as well. So here's the QR code for everyone that wants to get into our Discord.
Very cool. Wow.
Thank you,
you guys are amazing. Seriously, this
Thank
is
you.
pretty. It's very cool. I mean, you should just do one of these webinars on how you guys are accomplishing what you're accomplishing. It's fantastic. I mean, I know that Zoom has really opened the world's window, and it makes so much possibility, but not everybody can see that, And this is a real proof of that, with a great concept and pulling people together. Even though we are a pretty small world, of people that are so interested in sound, it's not very big. But I will tell you that, as you get older, like myself, I've got plenty of years to go. I'm not even close to being able to retire. So even if I wanted to, I couldn't. So that's how young I am, just to tell you people. But as you do get older, you do start appreciating more and more and more. And one of the things you want to do is it's not that you're looking for a legacy, but you're looking a way to excite the younger people to pick up where you left off, hopefully, and to carry on and care, so that when you're older and you're with your significant other or loved one and you're at the movies and you want to be able to feel the emotions that hopefully we are putting out on screen or in music today, and just let that keep going. It's very important for us to do these things. So you guys are thanking me, but I'm thanking you. I'm really appreciative. And Carlos Solis, who was part of this, and Carlos is such a strong advocate for this, and he's someone I love very much. So I couldn't be more appreciative.
Thank you for your kind words. We love Carlos, and thank you for being here.
Thank you a lot.
Because when I was at the NAM like one month ago, I was with Carlos, and he says, "Hey, you should interview Jon Taylor." I said, "Oh, that would be great." And finally, we are here. Thanks, Carlos. Thanks, Monica.
Yeah,
Amazing.
oh, for sure. And then you make it happen, man. You guys, it's very cool. But I mean, a lot of people, that's listening. What you did was listen. A lot of people don't listen. You're like, well, yeah, who's that guy? Let's check him out. Is he worthy of being on our top-notch show? Now I am. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well,
Thank you, John, a lot for being here. It means a lot to
I
us. You
think
have said a lot of important things about life and Dolby and a lot of subjects, and really, really thank you for this. And well, it's important for us to also showcase possibilities as well. So people that want to be creative can actually do a lot of stuff. There's a lot of inspiring stories like yours, and we all, including us, feel motivated. And I'm sure that just like us, the whole people watching this, like seriously excited that you are here with us.
Yeah,
fantastic. One last thing I got to say is going to Dolby. The RMU that we all have RMU, and the capabilities on the RMU, being able to export ADMs, it's amazing. Every time I make an ADM, send it somewhere, and then have them load it on their RMU, lock it to picture, and do a playback, has literally changed my world as far as working in this stage. Not that I do a lot of that, but I do some, and it's just Dolby is constantly, making our lives better. And I really want to say thank you to them. And since music and film are the same as far as that goes, I got to point that out.
Thank you, Dolby. Thank you, David. Thank you, John. This has been amazing. We have been talking like about 1.5 hours, and I feel like it was like 3 minutes, because it was amazing. And I want to thank you. I hope that I can meet you in the future if I go to LA, or if you come to Bogota, man. This is your house with your wife, or
Mexico City, baby. I just saw that. What is it? 28th to the 31st.
Yeah.
It
would be amazing. We can send you the information, and there are going to be a lot of audio engineers and educators, and then it's the Soundcheck Expo that is going to be great. So if you can go with your wife, that would be amazing. We're going to with David. So
fantastic. Well, hopefully I see you there. Hopefully I go, but I believe I can, so I'm going to try it.
We're gonna be there, and we're gonna be there waiting for you as well. It would be so exciting for you to go. Amazing.
You're going to be at the airport, Jon Taylor. Waiting all the days.
I hope there. I was there at the La Condesa de Efe last time. Is when I stayed at La Condesa, which for last 20-something years I had to go there. And Martin Hernandez and Alejandro helped me. They sent me there, and I got to stay at that place that I loved so much, and it was just, I loved being in La Condesa and Roma Norte and Polanco. It's just, and Santa Fe, where I went to, which is just outside of the city, where my friend lives. And it was just, like going to a different world. I mean, just being in Santa Fe was like, whoa, what's this? It's like Beverly Hills here. I mean, wow, but the Los Barrios in the city, and let's see that, we're so there's an understanding there between the barrios, and I really enjoyed it. I really, and also La Ciudad is parte de una selva. It's a forest. It was originally just a forest, and still all the streets are covered, with the trees, and it's just beautiful. And the Chapultepec Park there is just, I just had such a great time walking all hours of the night. I was 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm walking around. It was, I felt so safe. I never had a problem. It was fantastic. Lovely place.
Oh, we have to hang out with you and your wife and David at Mexico.
Yeah. Okay. I'm ready. I'm in there. Let's do it.
Let's do
Yeah,
it.
amazing.
Thank you, John.
So thank you, John. Unfortunately, the time of the stream has already ended, and I wanted to thank you, John, a lot again for this space. Also wanted to thank all the people that have connected and that have left all the questions. I know we do have a lot of questions still, but well, we might eventually have to make a second part, John.
Okay, well, I'm here.
To answer to answer all the questions. So, well, again, thank you, and well, I'll leave you now with Julio.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you
thank
so
you.
much. Thank you, David. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for this amazing live stream. And it was amazing talking with the person who was involved in Birdman. Was like, wow. So thank you, John. Yeah, man. And well, next week we will have a live with Lenny's band and with Tom Camuso. They are from LA too. So I hope that you stay tuned. Bye bye.